protection? What if somebody tries to mug you? What? What if your government tries to throw you in a can? What? You're gonna want a shotgun. Oh. What? An automatic rifle. And a lot of ammo. A gun? Yeah, a gun.
We're all set to riot. Buy a gun before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They'll burn you out like a Waco. They'll stick your ass in a camp. Jackbooted cops in riot gear, gonna kick your ass and laugh. The revolution is on its way. Better lock and load your AK. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. We're all set to riot. Buy a gun before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They gave your money to the banksters. They stole your pension funds. It's time that we took to the streets. It's time we had our turn. A revolution is on its way, and the founding fathers would say, buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. You got a riot in the streets. Revolution's not clean and neat. You got a riot in the streets. Revolution's not clean and neat. You gotta drag them through the streets.
It is Tuesday. We are live. This is Primer Time. My name is Michael.
And I'm Nick, coming to you live from the aftermath of Winter Storm Octavia.
Snowpocalypse 2015 Part 2.
Yep, sure enough. We did
How's
get,
your polar vortex?
we did get about 6 inches of the white stuff, and it was not Colombian Bang Bang.
6 inches of polar vortex straight from the mouths of global warming deniers.
Yep. So it just gave me an opportunity to go out there and throw out my back shoveling it, and ended up going out and taking the kids to go sledding down a hill later. So did everything that I could because work was closed.
Good for you. Good for you. Remember, the best day screwing up your back falling down the hill playing with the kids is better than the worst day working, or something like that.
Yeah, the best day working. So there you go.
Something like that.
Yeah. So Michael, have you had a chance to do anything firearms related this last weekend?
I did. I don't know if you recall, last week we discussed a repair that I was working on, and or a set of repairs I was working on, and I did actually get to go out and fire one of them, and it held up. So I'm pretty happy with it. The trigger guard on the Beretta 92 ended up holding up with the Gorilla Glue epoxy slathered on it quite generously, and the stuff dries fairly clear. It's not the prettiest job. I think I'd maybe consider taking it for a Cerakote at some point when funds for that become available. It held up to a magazine of my test magazine, which is it's all different kinds of ammunition mixed up. So the gun functioned fine with different brands of ammunition, and the repaired part did not fall apart.
Oh, well, that's good.
I was not able to test the shotgun though.
Okay. Well, actually, I got a chance to go on my my local online gun trader and spied a deal in and around my local area. So a gentleman was selling 2 Magpul PMags, a pistol grip, a Magpul MOE pistol grip, and 2 boxes of ammo for $45. So I said, you know what? In the coming apocalypse, that is going to be the 5.56 ammo shortage. I decided to go ahead and take that deal. So he's putting it in the mail tomorrow, and life will be good when it gets here.
All right, so let's discuss this ammo shortage that you were available to avert yourself of 40 rounds of. Let's discuss what's going on with this.
Okay, so it sounds like the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives which should be, what everybody aspires to work for, except in the fact that they take it away rather than let you play with it.
The Bureau of Fun Stuff.
Yeah, they're getting orders from on high, and basically they're wanting to ban any kind of the 5.56 with the steel tip, and or the copper jacket even.
Now, and specifically, what they're looking at banning right now is the XM855 round.
Well, the X just means experimental, so it's the M855. This is ball ammunition that's used for target practice. They want the stuff that's the green tip.
And this is not an actual steel core. This is a sort of a bimetal tip. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. It's in there with differing levels of tungsten and all these other trace metals that they can say, hey, it's not lead.
All right. Now let me ask you a question. In your military service, did you use this ammunition in a combat situation?
Yeah, sure did in Iraq, and it does its job. So of course they won't want average Joe citizen to have it.
Okay, now they're claiming that this is an armor-piercing ammunition, which is fine for a rifle, but that comes into effect when it's in use in handguns. That's why the shipment of the very low-cost Norinco ammunition for the 7.62 by 39s, which was steel cored back in the late 80s, and prior to that. They stopped that with the advent of AK pistols.
Right. So here's the deal. I think that what this comes down to, this is the backdoor approach at gun control, and you couldn't go through Congress, even when the Democrats controlled Congress, it couldn't go through. It just wasn't going to happen. But as we've seen with this administration, if they can do anything without even having to go through Congress, they will. And not only that,
and
it won't even be in the form of an executive order. It will be by presidential memoranda, which there is no avenue for Congress to bring that back. So anything that you hear the president saying, oh, I've written less executive orders than my predecessors, he's telling you 100% truth, but he's not telling you the whole truth in the sense that he's written more presidential memoranda than the last 4 presidents combined. So, I think that anybody that sees this, it's like I said, this is the AM855 ball ammunition. This was previously,
and this is a surplus ammo.
No, this is current military usage. So the whole thing here is that this looms on a decision or a reinterpretation that the M855 was given a previous exemption. So here, this is basically an agency going back over, reinterpreting, for whatever reason, and then saying, oh, now this is no longer going to be valid.
Now, I think we have to look at the armor-piercing aspect of this in conjunction with other news that's been happening. In the past few shows, we've spoken about the bill to ban body armor, and
the responsible
so it looks
body
like
armor laws.
That's right. Yeah. So it looks like they want you to not have body armor, but they're going to have body armor. And as I've seen recently, that pretty much every police officer or law enforcement agent of some sort in the United States will have level 3 body armor, which is the body armor that stops so-called high-powered rifle rounds. If you want to look it up, it's NIJA level 3, and that's pretty much going to be standard equipment. It looks like they're trying to take away your ability to penetrate those vests.
Yeah, because why would you need to do that?
Right, because the deer don't wear vests. Is that correct?
Exactly. And
right.
Here you go. If you want to have body armor, you must be some kind of criminal.
That's right. So if you've got the body armor, and last week we also covered the Senator Menendez built that is looking to ban high capacity magazines or restrict them to 10 rounds again. And the statement comes out that shows that anybody who wants a high capacity magazine is just either a really bad hunter or is preparing against the government. Well, I guess that's your answer right there.
Yeah,
They're preparing against you. They're taking away your ability to defend yourself. They're taking away your ability to fight back and up arming themselves massively. So you make the call.
Well, and then here's the interesting thing. So there hasn't been a tragedy where a 5.56 was used. I mean, people talk about, oh, the Newtown shooter, he had a 5.56 rifle, yeah, whatever. Okay, look, when it comes down to it, I think the last mass shooting that involved an AR-15 was either the one that was in Aurora at the movie theater in Colorado, and or going all the way back to the Northridge bank robbery and subsequent shoot up where the cops were.
Okay, well let's not go back that far. Let's take a look at Aurora. All right, so that guy went in and he had himself a nice AR-15. He had a 100 round. I believe it was one of those Korean drums. Copy of a Beta mag. That's 100 rounds. He fired, I believe it was 8 rounds before the rifle jammed.
Okay, well,
that to me that's a ringing endorsement for the AR-15 to be used in future scenarios like that.
Yeah,
that's even better than a 10-round magazine, right there.
I would venture to say that was probably operator error. So.
Oh, absolutely, which is something I've always found to be very interesting. That for these guys that are supposedly these super trained killers now through the use of video games and whatever mind drugs they're on.
Oh yeah, yeah.
There's always a massive operator error.
Yeah. Well, these guys aren't out there doing the right thing, learning how to operate these things properly, and certainly they're not in their right minds to begin with. So there's the breakdown in the chain.
Those rifles get bought, they get taken out. There's 500 rounds of steel case Tula put through it. That rifle gets carried home in the trunk of the car, goes right into the closet until the next time you use it to shoot up to school. Doesn't get cleaned, doesn't get any sort of maintenance.
Yeah. Well, see, here's the funny thing. So, we saw that during the rush when the legislation was going through Congress, everybody was afraid that the 5.56 was going to get banned. Prices on the weapons themselves went through the roof. People were, just a no-name crap put together Franken build was going for $1,200. Well, guess what? All the ammo is being bought up like crazy. I just, talking to one of my buddies today, looked online, and the 62 grain M855 is just flying off the shelves. I'm looking at the online vendors, and I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vendors right off the top sold out. And
well, that's not surprising. Within 2 hours of this decision being made, our favorite store to knock on, cheaper than dirt, the dog crap retailer out of Waco, Texas, they knocked their price up to almost $1 a round. That was doubling it immediately.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, people need to know that this is a 50 cent per round, caliber. This is not something that's in the realm of the 30-06 or the 308, which is nearly $1 a round.
In all actuality, it should be 25 cents per round, but recent scares and all that have changed it. But prior to the scare, it was 25 to 30 cents a round.
Right.
So they're really like sticking it to you. So I don't know. I guess vote with your wallet. I wouldn't do any kind of business with cheaper than dirt.
Well, no. I think that if you're the type of person that is like me and not afraid to write a letter to your congressman or senator or take some time and actually write to the ATF, because this is a proposed ban at this point. This has not happened. But people are positioning themselves to take advantage of if this does come.
Well, I've looked at this, and I think the ban has happened. I know that there's a small window, and the window is actually how they want public input as to how they wish to implement it. Well, it's not right now. Shall it be implemented? It's how to implement it.
Yeah, it says basically says. The ATF has released a framework for determining whether certain projectiles are primarily intended for sporting purposes And then what they're doing is eliminating the M855 from that category, which the
Now, let me ask you:
M855 had
does the Second Amendment mention sporting purposes? The sporting purposes clause is, to me, is
that's as
not
we say in
applicable.
German, that's Max nix. That has no bearing on the argument. The Second Amendment has been fought and has been said. This is what we call stare decisis in the legal realm. This is done deal. The Second Amendment is independent of sporting, hunting, whatever. The right of the
That's
people
what I would think.
to bear and own firearms shall not be infringed. So yeah, this is a, like I said earlier, this is directed from the administration saying that, hey, bureaucrat and the BATFE, this is what you will implement, and because you are a member of the federal government, you will do your job and you will put this out. So right now, like I said, they're they're trying. I think the ATF says that they're going to henceforth grant the sporting purposes exemption to only two categories of projectiles. Number one is 22 caliber, and number two is all other calibers. So, you know, does that mean shotgun
That's
shells?
sort
Does
of
that mean
open. That's sort of open ended. What is all other calibers?
right? And the definition that they have is except as provided in category one, which is the 22 caliber rimfire, which you can't find in stores anyways. Projectiles that otherwise would be classified as armor piercing will be presumed to be primarily intended for the use of sporting purposes under section yada yada. If the projectile is loaded into a cartridge for which the only handgun that is readily available in the ordinary channels of commercial trade is a single shot handgun, the ATF nevertheless retains the discretion to deny any application for sporting purposes exemption if substantial evidence exists that the ammunition is not primarily intended for such purposes. So here's the deal. I think what this is all those folks who wanted to go out and get the 5.56 pistol. I think this is what has come to pass. I think that the
Well, there was
ATF doesn't want 5.56 pistols, and this is, hey, all those guys in California that wanted to get their 5.56 that they couldn't do, well, and they decided to go ahead and make pistols. This is the ATF saying, well, guess what? Now we've closed that loophole.
I find these this development combined with the decision on the SIG brace, meaning it's not what was designed for, it's how you use it, being the criteria as to whether or not it's a rifle or a pistol. Um, find that this may have a case of people poking the bear, and I'm not going to fault them for poking the bear because the bear needs to be poked.
Okay, but
But there are
here's the deal.
consequences.
So guess what? You mess with the bulls, you get the horns, right? So
Right, there are absolutely consequences to this.
there are.
So this is a fight that is coming, and it may turn into a great big fight. Because
I think that what it's going to come down to.
ammunition is going to. It's not only going to impact the 885 that's an Olin Corporation product, which is basically the Winchester family. This is going to impact a lot of import ammo. PMC, which is a very large importer of ammunition, and it's priced right. It's the shooter's friend, to be honest with you. It's high quality ammunition. Every round is electrically tested. I think it's the only ammunition that's electrically tested. That is going to fall underneath this ban because it's exactly the same bullet.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it now is that if you weren't buying the 22 over at your local big box store when they get the big shipment in, you might as well just go ahead and start buying the 5.56 because if anything,
it's gone.
yeah, if we've learned anything in the last 6 years of this administration, it doesn't matter what the constitutional due process is. If they want your stuff, they will figure out a way to take it. Whether it's your tax money, whether it's your property, whether it's your personal papers or effects, the Constitution almost doesn't apply to this administration. But you got to remember, the guy's a constitutional lawyer, so he knows how to get around everything.
He's a community organizer. Still haven't figured out exactly what that means.
Well, I tell you what, I doubt that
because he's He's not organizing the community of the United States. That's for goddamn sure.
Oh, I'm sure he is. He's organizing the community that sucks off the wealth of everybody else. So yeah, you know.
I agree with you. The war keeps on going.
Yeah.
The war keeps on going. How many soldiers are they sending to Iraq?
Oh, they're getting ready to probably
fight,
send some more because you know
or pretend to be man ISIS.
Yeah.
What is that? 4,000?
That was 4,000 like 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, there's another 4,000 last week, I thought.
Yeah.
4,000 here.
Iraq and
Or
Afghanistan
whatever.
are the gifts that keep on giving. So
Really? All right. So, did you happen to catch anything about a story out of Yemen when the Marines supposedly left Yemen? They destroyed all their weapons before getting on the plane because the Yemeni. What do you make of that story?
Okay, so in any embassy anywhere in the world, we have a Marine security detachment. These are U.S. Marines, some of which I know personally. Some of my older friends have family members that were Marine embassy security guards, and they have their own armory inside of the embassy, and they're there to provide security for the ambassador and his staff, and State Department employees that are there, both local, national, or what we call host nation, and Americans. And probably what ended up happening is whenever they were given the order to say, okay, hey, we do need to go ahead and unass the area, they have a destruction plan in place, and that destruction plan encompasses everything dealing with sensitive equipment, sensitive papers, has to deal with any kind of three-letter agency.
Destroy the Enigma machine and the receipts for the weapons of mass destruction.
Exactly. Yeah. So, in addition to being able to get everything that they need to get out of there in terms of personnel and, essential equipment that they have to take with them, they have stuff that they can go ahead and destroy. And there's a plan in place. Now, whether or not they actually knew ahead of time enough to effectively implement that destruction plan, I couldn't even get into that. But I will tell you that when they go to get on the aircraft, they're told that they are not allowed to bring their weapons onto the aircraft. So what they have to do is they have to go ahead and destroy them. And basically, by way of that is, if it was done the way which is common for us to do in a destruction plan, you would have something called a thermite grenade, and you would basically you gather up every single firearm or small arm or whatever you're going to have to get rid of, and you build a pile. And what you do is you use this thermite grenade, and basically it will melt through engine blocks, burns at thousands of degrees. You wouldn't want to be the one holding the pin trying to cook that off, if you know what I mean.
You wouldn't want to have Israeli art students painting that all over the inside of the World Trade Center, for example.
Yeah. So here you go. These are guys that are basically trying to, you probably got 20, 30 guys that are U.S. Marines that are trying to herd the cats of the State Department, and they're trying to do their job in addition to being told at the last second, oh, by the way, hey, you can't get on the plane if you have firearms. So if it was me and I was a detachment commander, that would not have even been a question. My Marines are not to give up their weapons at any time, but I'm not the guy in charge. So
now, what I read was they destroyed everything. They were allowed to keep pistols, but they were made to destroy all the rifles and all the machine guns, so to speak, all the heavier equipment. And the way they destroyed the M16s and the M4s was they removed the bolt and then just smashed everything with a sledgehammer.
Yeah, probably used a 10-pound sledge. Okay, I'll tell you what. You remove the bolt carrier group, the BCG, and that's got the bolt, it's got the firing pin on the inside, and the carrier is going to go inside, and yeah, you smash that rifle's not functioning. But guess what? All those things are made on an assembly line, and any other bolt carrier group, if you don't destroy the rifle itself, will work in that. So, what did they do enough? I don't know. I can't say whether or not that destruction plan was implemented properly.
And that's part of the problem with this. It was very little mention of this in the news, and especially the part about the destruction of the weapons. It just said destruction of the weapons. We had to hunt to find any sort of real information about how the weapons were destroyed. I just thought it was fairly interesting that that was going on. That and the destruction of the weapons I found was interesting, and the fact that, well, straight up honest, to the fucking Marines. How can they not get on a plane with guns? I mean, what are they going to do? Like take over the plane?
I'll tell you what. Every time I've ever flown on an aircraft going to or from a mission, we are not allowed to fly with the bolts inside the weapons. That just doesn't happen. We literally have to take our bolts from our weapons, and we tag the bolts, and we affix a little toe tag. We put that on the bolt, knowing whose weapon it is and what rifle serial number that goes to. So when it comes down to it, those bolts get locked in a ammo can, and somebody that's responsible, not me, gets to hold on to that for the entire duration of the flight.
Good to see they trust you guys.
Yeah, I don't want to be that guy anyways. I want to
No,
I don't want
that
to
just sounds
babysit
like
everybody else's crap.
that just sounds like a lot of stuff to carry when you get off the plane.
Yeah, it is. But the good thing is you get to be the first guy on and the last guy. The first guy off the plane, the last guy on the plane, so you don't spend a lot of time just sitting around waiting. So,
That's,
yeah.
that's true. All right, so what else we got on the menu?
Well, so we went ahead and covered the 5.56 potential ban. Let's talk about life in New Jersey.
Let's go with life in New Jersey. How is the Garden State these days?
Well, that it would be the garden where everybody's using the wrong kind of compost. The way I look at it, there's a story coming out of there. A retired school teacher, age 72, is now facing 10 years in prison for having on his person a 18th century flintlock pistol in his glove box as he was stopped for a minor traffic violation. So
That's pretty gangster.
yeah,
That's pretty gangster.
you've got some street credibility if you're going to knock over the convenience store with a 18th century flintlock. So
You now realize that you cannot hold a flintlock gangster style because one of two things will happen. You will pour all the powder out or you will drop your flint.
there you go. So this is a gentleman named Mr. Van Gilder, Gordon Van Gilder, a retired school teacher. Is basically he got let out of his house in handcuffs after a traffic stop where officers found the 18th century pistol in his glove box, decided to let him go. 4 officers later showed up at his house the next morning with a arrest warrant. And yeah, he ended up being pretty embarrassed. All of his neighbors saw him being let out in cuffs, and he's got some words of warning. And he says, "Beware of New Jersey. Don't come here. Don't live here." He says, "I am a retired school teacher coming out of and he says it's an insult to decent people what is happening here." He says he's being charged as a felon, and it's unbelievable. So, which I find is really interesting is that New Jersey's gun laws include antique firearms, whereas most other states.
That's right, because we don't consider a black powder weapon in the state of Texas to be a firearm.
Exactly. That would fall under the curio and relic category.
Actually, I believe it falls into the antique category because there is the fact that there's no readily manufactured ammunition for it.
Right, certainly. Everything would have to be hand cast, and yeah, it's a labor-intensive process. So,
this is just another episode of the knee-jerk reaction. We also had a case in the Cape Cod area where a man and his wife were hauled out of their house by a SWAT team. He had a Benelli M2, a Remington 870, a Stag Arms AR-15 with 2 deadly high-capacity magazines, which just happen to be the standard capacity magazines that rifle is sold with, and a Glock 19 with a 15-round magazine. This totals to be less than $3,000 for the entire haul that he's got right there, and they used an entire SWAT team, and once again embarrassed the gentleman in front of his neighbors. So we're seeing this happen all over the place. The demonization of firearms is out there, and the push is back on.
Oh, I mean, this all goes back to the Justice Department and Eric Holder with his videotaped remarks about having to change the culture about firearms in the United States and wanting to make it uncool, just like what was done with smoking. So,
Now, I find it interesting that you bring up the videotape remarks because last week we covered every America's favorite mayor, Mayor Bloomberg, and our former Mayor Bloomberg with his own private army now,
right,
um,
yeah.
and how he gave a speech and he said that the way to complete the gun control issue in the United States was basically to disarm minorities between 15 and 35.
Oh, the great
And
mayor of New York City says that we need to disarm minorities?
disarm minorities, and basically, this is not something that fits in with the American way.
So then,
This
so
is
then,
wrong. This
by
is
that rationale, his wife and kids would need to be disarmed too.
they're chosen; they don't count, sir.
Ah, yes, yes.
Well, so the mayor with his infinite poll and large bank account has stopped the videotape of this talk that he's given from being released. Now, this is an oddity because the venue where he's given this, similar to a TED Talk type of conference, is known for releasing these um, speeches within 24 hours, and this has not been released, and it's not going to be released. Now, somebody has captured audio of it, and it's been uploaded to YouTube several times and removed. So if it's
Are
out
they
there, I
are
would get
they
it.
disabling accounts and locking them down when they post those?
No, they're just removing the video. I don't know if they're doing any of that.
Ah, so
That's
so
something I've my YouTube firearms viewing and YouTube's firearm experience is rapidly changing. There's really only one or two channels that I actually watch for anything. Everything else has been done a million times, and honestly, it's just a bunch of tards running around acting stupid and putting my rights at risk with their antics. So I don't really encourage any of the YouTube channels that are out there. They either give false information or they're trying to turn kids who play with airsoft guns into tactical operators or something, which is going to result in this kid like shooting off his foot with his Marlin 795 22 long rifle. That's going to he thinks is an AR-15. It's I find the state of YouTube to be shockingly appalling when it comes to firearms.
yeah. Well, like I said, you don't always have the smartest guys out there making videos and putting it out there. Some guys do it for the recognition. Some guys do it because they're just bored to tears. But they're not doing anybody any favors. So
I mean, seriously, do we need to see another video where a guy takes a Glock and covers it in scrambled eggs, and then he's totally surprised that it fires?
yeah, yeah.
I mean, really, I mean,
or goes ahead and takes a 5.56 and tries to fire it through a 9mm.
right? Yay, we already know what's going to happen. And if the new kids don't know, they can, well, learn how to use the search button.
Yeah.
You know?
So, Michael, we got a quick question in chat talking about the 7mm Odd 8, and that's a round that
That's yours, buddy.
yeah, that's a round that I'm not really keen on. I'm not saying that it's a poor hunting round or not. 7mm is a very versatile caliber. You've got everything up from 7mm Rem Mag, 7mm Mauser, and like I said, 7mm Odd 8.
And 7mm translates into what? .27?
Yeah, 270 caliber. So you look at 270, you look at 7mm Odd 8. You got some differences in the case length. Some differences in the grain weight of the bullet. Anything in 7mm is generally going to take down anything in terms of large game in the United States and North America, with the exception of probably moose, or even grizzly bear. I think for anything more than that, like I said, if you're going to hunt dangerous game in North America, you're probably going to want nothing smaller than a 454 if you're shooting a pistol, or a 458 at a minimum. And heck, I'd probably even say you could probably take stuff down with a 375 Holland and Holland. But the 7 millimeter aught 8 for those people that are into it, it's less damage to your shoulder than a 7 millimeter Remington Magnum, and that's kind of where I would make the decision on whether or not to use that versus another caliber. How much damage is that going to do to your shoulder?
Well, it fires a relatively light projectile at an incredibly high velocity. There's a lot of recoil. There's a lot of gas being made.
Yeah, and when you think about the 7 millimeter cartridge, it's been around for a while. In my area, you can't hardly find anything in 7 millimeter or 270. It doesn't stick around. And places like Texas, that's what a lot of people actually use for hunting wild pigs. So it's a good round. Don't get me wrong. It's just not one that I'm a fan of particularly because I tend to like stuff in the 30 caliber or higher range. And like I said, certain things I've seen wild boar that handle 7 millimeter and keep right on chugging. So I think bigger is better.
That's a pretty decent answer to that.
I try not to dissuade anybody from, you know, hey, maybe they've got a firearm that they were, inheriting or something that, came in on a ganga. Hey, any firearm that you can get, that's a good one. And what makes it even better is when you learn how to use it responsibly and learn how to develop the muscle memory so that you can go ahead and employ it the way it's designed to be employed. So,
Let's hit the 4 rules against safety real quick now that you brought up responsibility.
yep.
Rule number 1, every firearm is loaded until you physically and visually verify that it is unloaded. Rule number 2, keep the muzzle pointed in a safe direction at all times. Do not point it at anything you do not wish to destroy. Rule number 3, know what your target is. Know what is beyond your target at all times. And rule number 4, the most important rule, keep your booger hook off the bang switch until you are ready to discharge the weapon. Keep your finger out of the trigger guard until you are ready to pull the trigger.
That is it. And for speaking of trigger guards, for anybody that does do the AR-15 or the AR-10s, it may be worth it to you to go ahead and keep that stock mil spec trigger guard. That instead of making the Magpul one that makes it a little bit bigger for you to be able to slide your finger in, if you're learning how to use that firearm, go ahead and keep that thing in the stock flat one instead of the more rounded aftermarket edition. Just a good way to keep your finger out of there.
And a good way to save some money too. You don't really need it.
Yeah.
Magpul is like Barbie anymore. The only Magpul products truly I would even consider are the flip up sights and the magazines.
Yeah.
I think all the rest of the stuff is just pretty. There's really not a whole lot of function involved.
I think that when it comes down to it, I've got the benefit of having gone overseas and seeing the way that when people talk about real gun control, trust me, you got nothing on South Korea, and you certainly don't have anything on places like Germany or the United Kingdom. Be fortunate that you're here in the U.S. of A. where you still have an opportunity to go out and buy the firearm you want without having to have it stored at the police station in your location. So, those kind of things, while it sounds far out, this administration would like nothing more to do than those things to you, because everything
it's beyond the administration. It's a push, and we see the same names and the same faces behind it every time.
Oh, you do, and that's one thing I think that you don't have to hash over, because I think anybody who's got an intelligent mind about it understands that anytime that there's a massive push in our Congress for any kind of gun control, you just got to look at the last name, you got to look at the letter in the parentheses, and you got to look at what nation they support. So, and chances are it ain't the one that we're living in.
Never is. Never is. Speaking of which, what do you know about Netanyahu? Is he still showing up here?
As far as I know, he'll be on tap to speak in Congress. He's getting some flack, I guess, both at Israel and in the Congress of the United States for coming. But when it comes down to it, what's he going to do? The status quo is the status quo, and nothing's going to change.
Yeah, it's not like you're going to quit making money and renting the movies for us.
Yeah, you just got to look at, like I said, I'm a big study of people in diaspora and seeing where they go in the world, and it's interesting when you have names that change to make it easier. And I'm not just talking about the folks that go through Ellis Island, but they translate into about 4 different languages, meaning the same thing. So if for my German friends, anybody whose name is Silberman, it's probably the same thing as Silverman here in the U.S.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So
Those names change to kind of hide who they are, I think.
yeah, and when you look at the amount of gun legislation, you look who signs on to it. It's a sad thing, but I think that you've got some good news out of your state.
Oh, that's right. Our governor gave our State of the Union tonight, and
State of the state.
oh, State of the State, excuse me. That's correct. State of the State. And Governor Abbott said all kinds of blah, blah, blah about everything else and how he's working for this and that. But he did take a few seconds to say something about gun control. And I believe I've got it right here. Let me see where I wrote that down.
Yeah.
Let me briefly follow up on a word I mentioned a moment ago, liberty. In a single word, it encapsulates what this country stands for, what Texas symbolizes. I will expand liberty in Texas by signing a law that makes Texas the 45th state to allow open carry. That was Governor Greg Abbott tonight in the State of the State. Now, this brings up some interesting points. There's two competing bills in the state of Texas. There's House Bill 164 and House Bill 195. They both offer open carry. House Bill 164 offers open carry to holders of a concealed weapons permit and a open carry permit to be established in the future, no doubt, at probably $250. House Bill 195 offers constitutional carry. If you have the right to carry a firearm in the state of Texas in the United States, you have the right to carry it open. The news is in Texas seems to push that it's going to be 164, but when you look at any sort of legislative activity, it appears to be 195 that's got all the traction. But the news, of course, is pushing 191, or rather 164, and it's licensing provision. Now, that's really not your constitutional right to have a license.
Yeah. So when it comes down to it, it's not just something that you can go purchase a firearm and just wear it on your hip from here on out.
Not yet. Not yet. Now we'll see if 195 is the bill that passes. That's exactly what it'll mean. You buy it at the store, and if you've got your holster, you pop it on and go. If not, please purchase a holster and don't buy that shitty Uncle Mike's $9.99 nylon one.
Yeah.
Get a good one.
Oh yeah. Well, I think that when it comes down to it, you're going to see some states that are really wrestling with this idea of allowing people to openly display or openly carry their firearms. Here where I live, it's open carry, no questions asked. I do see people carrying from time to time. I do it on occasion. Certainly, if I'm ever doing any deals where money is exchanging place and exchanging hands, I would, be just beside myself if I forgot to do that. Mainly just because I'm able to go ahead and take care of myself. Everybody's got their favorite story, but like I said, what happened to me recently where I was leaving a store and, a gentleman comes up to me, saw me carrying, saying, what are you afraid of that you got to carry a pistol? I said, absolutely nothing. I'm not the one that needs to be scared.
All right, you're right there ready to defend yourself, and really, that's the greatest thing you can do. Look at, if nothing else, look at the drain off the infrastructure that you take care of by being proactive in your safety. You don't need a cop to follow you.
Oh no, and like I said, I think a lot of folks understand that that's not what police and sheriffs and all those constables, that's not what they're there for. They're there to clean up the scene, to write the summary at the end of it and pass that on to a judge. It's a sad thing, but guess what? You either take care of yourself or somebody's going to go ahead and take care of you. And whether that's
and you may not like it.
Yeah,
you may not like how you're taking.
That's right. It may not be the way you want it taken care of. So, oh well, some folks take a little bit of time to do the due diligence and protect themselves, their property, and their family, and other people just leave it to chance, I guess.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. It looks like the U.S. Marines have come up with a option to take matters into their own hands. It looks like they've approved the Glock 19 for some use.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting because we've talked about the U.S. Army and they're wanting to upgrade their service pistol from the Beretta, and recently how Beretta wasn't even allowed to submit their offering. We've got the Marine Special Operations Command saying that they're going to go ahead and outfit their operators with the Glock 19. So this is the 9 millimeter 9 by 19, and it will be the
And that's
official.
and the 14 is the, or I'm sorry, the 9 millimeter in the 19 has a 4.5 inch barrel with a 15 round magazine, right?
Yep, not available in California.
That's right. It may cause cancer.
So yeah, it's one of those things where you know they've used the 9 millimeter, they've used the 45s. They I think they even used the SIG M11s that we had in the Army for a short period. Um, but I think they're trying to do some standardization, and when it comes down to it, Glock has a fairly reliable 9 millimeter history. So you know,
Well, and that's an interesting subject we're bringing up with the Army and their departure from the Beretta 9 millimeter and Beretta's offering and the well, I'm concerned about this mainly from a taxpayer point of view. And I think you'll have to agree with me that the sidearm for the military is never really a primary weapon.
exactly. Unless you're doing a job such as law enforcement on an installation. I mean, I think that's when your sidearm is your primary weapon. To the average guy who's running a patrol, no, that is something that you use when you're all out of everything else.
Right. So that being said, the 9 millimeter Beretta fits the bill for that quite well.
Yeah, certainly.
And we've got quite an infrastructure invested in the Beretta. I mean, there's armorers courses, there's spare parts, there's just the institutional knowledge that comes with having had the same pistol for 30 years. Now, we're not changing calibers, and we're not doing anything exceptional with the firearm. They're just looking for a new toy. I find that to be highly, highly irresponsible, considering we have a massive infrastructure for the M9 series pistols, and the failure to choose the M9A3 would be, I think, is a crime against the taxpayer.
Okay,
The
well,
only
let's
option
let's
I
examine that.
can.
Let's
All right,
examine
all
that
right.
because what you have in the Army, you've got 450,000 active duty troops that we're trying to get the number whittled down to about 420,000. Okay, you've got a fraction of that in the Marines, and then even whittling that down to Marine Special Operations Command. I mean, we're talking, you know, infinitesimal percentage as compared to what is the U.S. Army's overall personnel. So
Right. Now, how many of these Glocks did the Marines pick up?
I don't know. I don't have that with me, but I'll tell you, it's not going to be anywhere near the same order that the Army is placed to replace the 9 millimeter from Beretta.
No, because the Beretta contract still holds out for at least 100,000 more of the current M9.
Right.
So I don't see the logic in changing pistols at this point.
Well,
We're not fiscally ready for it.
well,
And
fiscally
the
ready
only
has nothing to do with it because if that was the case, we wouldn't be giving blanket amnesty to people. So fiscal responsibility has no place in the conversation. I think we
right.
get that out of the way up front. This isn't about making responsible decisions with taxpayer money. It never was. This is about for individual services that have individual purchasing requirements and they come up with their own things that they want to do. This is the same reason why it's very hard to get all four services to standardize the uniforms that they wear. You know, we used to do okay with the woodland pattern camouflage, and then all of a sudden the Marine Corps wanted to have digital pattern. They call it MARPAT. And then what did the Army do? The Army said, hey, guess what? That's cool. It doesn't work very well, but we'll make this pattern and we'll give it to all of our soldiers. So there's pocket industries out there that live off these government contracts. And, the firearms that go to the services, their makers are not, they're not oblivious to this fact, and they're going to go ahead and try and get a government contract because that you put in on this design, if the Army says, or any of the services say, hey, we're going to buy this. So, from a financial standpoint, what do they care? It's not their money.
Right, right, and that's just a problem. Now, okay, so now we have to look at the options that are out there. None of the other pistols really make any sense to me, other than the Glock 19. Nothing is a significant advantage over the Beretta that's already in place, other than the Glock 19. And the Glock 19 doesn't meet the modular handgun requirements.
Yeah, and here you go. But you're looking at two different services and their competing requirements. So, there's not necessarily a requirement for MARSOC, the Marine Special Operations Command, to have a modular firearm. That may not be part of their criteria. So, here you're just stuck again with two different services saying this is what we want, and feel free to submit your proposal, and we'll take it under advisement and see which one we choose.
It's a mess, and it's a mess that's going to end up costing the taxpayer once again.
But I
Hey,
think,
listen, Captain Gringo in chat just dropped a pretty interesting story, and comes out of Fox News, and it's our friends in California dealing with the micro stamping requirement
yes.
of their handgun laws.
Yes, yes, yes. This is different than what was supposed to happen in New Jersey with the electronic firearms wristwatch that was supposed to be paired with a firearm. This is an actual process of stamping into the basically either off the side of the firing pin where it would normally strike the primer. There's a special stamp that is micro engraved or embossed into a separate striker that will mark the spent shell casing with a type of identification mark. Basically what California did was had this legislation signed in under Governor Schwarzenegger, and they wanted to go ahead and get this to where every handgun in the state would have some way of being traced back to the original purchaser. And here's the problem with that. Firearms change hands, right? So you can be a law-abiding citizen. You pay your taxes. You go to church on Sunday. You do whatever you need to do. You support the Police Benevolent Association and get your sticker for your car so you don't get pulled over. Well, you decide that you want to sell that firearm. You sell it, or hell, you keep it, and it gets stolen. You do your part. You know what? You forget to call the cops and report it stolen for whatever reason. That firearm is used in the commission of a crime. You are now going to jail.
Well, this law has a lot of backdoor gun control effects. The law came into effect in 2013, and two of the largest firearms manufacturers in the nation, Smith and Wesson and Ruger, have said that they will no longer sell firearms in California. That's a state of 38 million people. That's quite a large market.
Yeah, when you think about it, Californians, the special breed that they are, and I've had the displeasure of living in that shithole for a couple different portions of my life. These people that get in
How
there,
do you really feel?
yeah, I'm not going to hold back. The people that are there put the gun restricting legislators. They put them there repeatedly. Your Feinsteins, your Boxers, your ghost guns out of Los Angeles. All these types get reelected, and they do it actually independent of the hardworking folks that are in the interior valleys of California, where the agricultural work takes place, where people actually have to defend their property from whether it's coyotes that are trying to kill their cattle or whatever that they're trying to do, or just even trying to keep their family safe. I think that when it comes to companies like Ruger, which is out of Arizona, I think that the state assembly in California has gone on record more than a couple times in the last couple years with attempts to cut off all business dealing with California and Arizona. There was the Proposition 187 that went in Arizona to ban certain things about not allowing illegal immigrants to vote, and California was like, oh, hey, we're not going to do business with you. So when it comes down to it, I look at California and I just think that, you know what, if you haven't left that state, then you're part of the problem.
Yeah, California's got its own mess, and I don't think we're going to ever see an end to it. Feinstein still in office. Barbara Boxer still in office. Leland Yee still in jail, but still has a lot of power. Representative Mike Honda, every law enforcement agency in California. Yeah, you guys are screwed.
Yeah,
sorry.
Feel bad for them, but not that much. You know what? Because there's 49 other states that you can move to, and if you really like high taxes, just move to New York City or Boston. You know what?
Yeah. We end up leaving Massachusetts out of this. They've got a rather interesting firearms licensing procedure, and well, they've also got the 10-round magazines. So
yeah. That's one of the things that we don't get a lot of chance, and I know we got just a few minutes left, but I wanted to open up on Hawaii and Honolulu in particular. It's one thing for a lot of folks to go ahead and say that they want to purchase a firearm, but that in Hawaii you have to go to the Honolulu Police Department 3 times in order to go ahead and make a purchase of a firearm. You have to go ahead.
3 times?
Yes, 3 times. You have to go ahead, go there first, have a background check performed. You got to go there a second time and bring back the serial number of the rifle that you intend to buy or handgun that you intend to buy, and then you have to go the third time with the firearm so that you can get it licensed. Is that not insane?
So you actually take possession of the firearm and then show up at the police station?
After the second time going to the police station, when you provide them all the information about the firearm that you intend to buy.
And so the store won't release the firearm to your possession until it's been okayed by the police department.
Exactly.
Suckers on an island.
Mokes. So.
Why folk you don't like that?
Yeah,
Well, I don't speak pidgin English very well.
Yeah, don't worry, neither do they.
That's obvious, right?
It is. So all my native Hawaiian folks out there that want the islands back, remember, we still have a lot of military guys out there, and yeah, it wouldn't be cool to get invaded, twice in 200 years and overthrown. So keep that in mind.
If Hawaii wants independence, who's going to send them food stamps?
Oh, they're trying to get the Chinese to do that. So
Yeah, but they don't take food stamps. They don't take Chinese food stamps at Costco yet.
Yeah, well, as long as the Chinese are willing to go ahead and supply them with every Norinco product that they can get their hands on in order to go against the assembled forces at Schofield Barracks and Pearl Harbor, Kaneohe Bay, and Hickam Air Force Base. Well, whatever, they want to take their chances.
I'll tell you, I did see a couple of Norinco products at the last gun show I was at, and I was kind of tempted to put my hands on them. I didn't have the money for them, but I saw a Norinco 913 Tokarev, which is 9mm version of the Soviet Tokarev produced in China. Saw one of those, and it was amazing that it was almost $300, because when those first came out, they were about $69. And then there was a Norinco 1911 that's actually a very good quality pistol, and the guy wanted $400 for it, which is also kind of high because those were $200 when they first came out.
Go figure. Well, Michael, we're getting down to the wire here. I want to give a big thanks to our folks in chat for the questions and our steady listeners. We're seeing bigger numbers every week, so let's keep it up. I want to say a big shout out to my buddy Chris. And Michael, thanks for getting me on here.
Oh, Nick, thanks for being here. UGY.TV, people, plenty of good programming. Hey, check out people who do our theme song, Gitmos, Buy a Gun. Everybody have a good week.